All right. It's Ethan Musolini, the Merchant of Success. Welcome to this amazing subject on how to influence your team 2.0. See, it's one thing building a team, it's another thing influencing it. Some of you requested for this, so here I am, ready to get going on this valuable subject matter. Again, there are 5 key components that I focus on when I'm teaching. That is clarity in terms of the why and the what, and then the mindset, the strategies, the skill sets, and of course, mastery to bring this content or this information to life. So when we talk about influence, there are a couple of things we are referring to in this particular context. And when we say influence in this particular segment, we mean that it is the power to make other people agree with your opinions or do what you want. That's part of it, of course, not the whole story. To have an influence on people or situations means to affect what they do or what happens. It's not also, when we talk about it, it's not also just affecting them in terms of what they do, it's also what they will not do, okay? For example, if I ask my team members to make sure that they stop doing something and they stop doing it, then that is influence. So it's not just about what they do, it's also what they stop doing or do not do. And really, it's also about how to affect or change someone or something in an indirect but usually important way. So when we say indirect, there's a difference between influence or persuasion versus coercion. Coercion is you are forceful. Influence, you're indirect, you're artful, you're stealthy. I shouldn't say stealthy, but you're tactical, you're strategic, you're indirect sometimes, and yet you still get what you want. While coercion, it is direct force to get someone to do something. So why is influence important? Number one is it expands your leadership impact, because here we're talking about you influencing your team. Number two, it drives teams to success, because if you have a certain direction you want to take and people are able to get there, then you're literally driving your team to success, and that's what you really want. Number three, people who are influential grow their careers, because oftentimes, if you're able to influence people, that alone is an asset. And so you'll find that in any organization, those people who are influential are very, very valuable. And if you find yourself in such a position of influence, and there's a difference between position and influence. There are people who do not have very high positions, and yet they're extremely influential, meaning what they say, people listen. And having said that, if you demonstrate that ability to influence people, your chances for career growth become very, very high. Of course, you attain business success because influence, you're able to get people to say yes and buy or talk about your product or services. You leave a legacy, because when I say legacy, meaning if you are able to influence people to behave in a certain way and produce a certain result, then that's your legacy. People will say, so-and-so, when she was working here, she did this. When so-and-so was here, she helped us to do this, or she drove the team to do this. That's your legacy. Now, let's talk about the mindsets, key mindsets for influencing people. The first mindset is that some people will be for you while others won't. So, talk about any glorious human being that ever lived on planet Earth, from Christ to Mother Teresa to Nelson Mandela to Martin Luther King, all these fellows, they were incredibly powerful individuals, and yet some people disagreed with them, some even to a point of losing their lives, some people, taking their lives away. So the point I'm making is you just have to have that mindset and know, look, some people will be for you, others will not. And that's fine. That's okay. You see, that gives you peace of mind, because there are people, no one, when I'm teaching sales, I always tell people that no one owes you a yes. No one. But it's your role to make sure that you instigate or influence people to give you a yes, that you're not entitled to it. You're only entitled to influence them. You are not, it's not a must that they give you a yes. The other mindset, which is important, is the possibility mindsets. So you look at possibilities. Even though no one owes you a yes, you have to stay positive and believe that you're going to get a yes. Or at least the chances of you getting a yes are very high. So when you are in that state of possibility, then you're more enticing to listen to. You'll be more welcomed when you're positive rather than when you're negative. You see, when you're negative, you don't have to tell people that I'm negative. No, you will feel, your vibes will be negative. The energy will be dense. But when you're positive, your energy is light. You want to be around. I was sharing with one of the mastermind members saying, look, like when my daughters are around me, you can feel like their energy is very light, okay? Because they don't have, they don't have the baggage of, that some of us adults have. So, their energy is light. That's why we love kids. They are, they believe everything is possible, and, they are positive. When they ask for something, they believe they are going to get it. So they are in that state of possibility. And that's one of the reasons we like them, because they have that positive attitude. Therefore, their energy is very light. It's very positive. So I want to be around them. And I'm here to propose to you that even as an adult, you can create that. You can generate that. And even in influencing people, you have to be in that state, because people want to listen to, they want to be influenced by individuals who are positive. Also, when you're influencing, the other mindset which is useful is to remind yourself that people do their best based on many factors. So be patient, and you may not know which factor that could be. It could be that they did it because they were angry. It could be that they did it because they were hungry, or a combination of both, angry and hungry, which is a dangerous combination. So you just need to be patient and figure out what could be influencing people to do what they are doing. The other mindset which is useful is to know that people are willing to change, right? Whereas I believe that young people or children change faster, even adults can change. When you hear these sayings, and we have to be very careful of certain sayings, that you can't teach an old dog new tricks. It's just that it takes more effort to teach an old dog new tricks, but even old dogs learn new tricks. And guess what? There are some old dogs that are as agile as young dogs. I've seen 70-year-olds that are as excited about learning as a 15-year-old. So you just have to psych yourself up and tell yourself that. But the moment you hold the mindset that people cannot change, then you're beaten from the word go. You will not even speak up. You will not think about a strategy or tactics. So one of the gifts I would like to give you is to believe that people are willing to change, or at least there is a possibility for people to change. The other key, which is one of the most important, is total belief, meaning you believe in what you're selling totally. You have to believe in your idea totally. You have to believe in your vision or mission totally. Because remember, people buy you fast, and people buy you by certainty. The moment you seem like you're doubting, the moment you sound like you're doubting, then people will doubt you. So you have to step into the mode of belief, right? You have to step in that mode no matter what, because that's how you increase your chances for success. The more you believe, the more likely they will believe. So you have to be in that moment. You can see when I'm talking to you, I'm speaking with absolute certainty over these ideas. But if I was to say, you people, let me see what sort of mindsets might be helpful. The one, I'm not so sure, but this other mindset could be useful for you. You're not going to believe. You're going to run away from the room. So this, in public speaking, I call it being congruent, meaning your words have to match your body language, your tone of voice. It has to be one, has to be in unison. Call it the trilogy of belief. The words have to be believable, the body language, and the tone of voice. And the sixth mindset is to remember that influence takes time. Stay persistent and consistent. All right. So out of curiosity, how many of us have received some of my invitations or messages a couple of times, and today is your first time to appear? Let me just find out, just out of curiosity. I'm seeing a couple of yeses in the chat box, all right? So, and I will tell you, I've seen one of us here who typed in, looks like she received dozens and dozens of messages because was telling me that, oh, I usually see these topics and they look interesting, and now she's here. So sometimes influence takes time. You have to stay persistent and consistent. Then one day, someday, one time, someone will say yes, just like some people who have appeared today. And that was after me reaching out to them over and over again. Yeah, you look at the chat box, yeah, lots of me's. So there's a question that how is 3 different from 4? Number 3 is people do their best based on many factors. Be patient. So what I meant by that is for you to remember that there could be certain factors that you may not know. That's one. But also this other concept of do their best. That's actually an interpersonal relationship skill. And for some of us who have ordered the recordings or are about to record, I mean to order for them, just look at the segment of interpersonal intelligence. Interpersonal intelligence. I go in detail about people doing their best. So meaning people usually do the best they can based on what they know mentally, emotionally, spiritually. They use their based on the background, education, and abilities. That's what this means. And therefore, because of that, therefore, when you're influencing, you have to be aware of those factors, and then you can gently guide them or influence them based on what could be influencing them to behave that way. Now, point number four specifically teaches us to think that people are willing to change, because trust me, I've met many people who think, and you even find people say this who think, abantu bazibu, or people are a problem. Or they will say, you see, that age bracket, they can't change. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. And that mindset then holds you or slows you down to go ahead and influence people. So this is just being aware that there are so many factors and people are doing stuff based on those factors, while this one is really about you having the faith and the belief that people are willing to change, or there's a possibility for change. Please let me know if that makes sense. Okay, I've seen that very clear. Okay, great. All right, let's go to the next segment. Strategy. 4 core strategies for influencing people. Number 1, action-oriented strategy. Make clear what you want, when you want it, and then equip people and manage them to deliver. So if you're influencing a team, be super clear what you want and when you want it. And don't just tell them what you want and when you want it. Equip them, because sometimes I believe we've been part of that. We've been part of situations where someone wants you to do something, you know what you're supposed to do and when you should deliver it, but you very well know that you do not have the abilities. So this third part is clear about equipping the people. Do your people have the skills and the abilities? And of course, when you say manage them to deliver, it means things like keeping them motivated, checking on them that they are delivering best on what you talked about. So that's the action orientation strategy. Okay. Then the process strategy is this. You share proposals, you have them discussed, push for what you want, or influence people towards what you want. And remember to use facts and numbers, justify, win over influential people. Besides the facts and numbers, I would also say use other tricks and techniques like stories, examples, illustrations to push for what you want. And of course, if you want more information around that, I would encourage you to check out my public speaking masterclass. There are 10 modules recorded. It goes in depth around that, and you can talk to Nathan about the same. So what we are talking about here is, of course, you know what you want, but then part of the process is make sure you back this up with facts and numbers, with stories, justify why it's important. And the win over influential people is one of the oldest tricks in history. So if you're in a team, you will discover that there are some voices that are more influential than others. So get those voices on your side. It might mean even having them, talking to them one-on-one, not in a group setting. Say, you know what, I'll be counting on you sell to them the idea, and once they say yes, say, you know what, I'll be counting on your support for this. Then that way, you know you've not won over one person, but you've won the other people who listen to that lady or gentleman. The other strategy is the ideas strategy. So what you do is you identify common ground, define common interests, because sometimes it is challenging to influence people when they imagine or believe that you're on two different lanes. And what is interesting is you might find you have, out of your 5 ideas, 3 or 4 of them, you're on the same line, and same thing with this person. And what is even troublesome is you find now people are sticking their guns on that one idea, and the other one is also pushing so hard on that one idea, and they're forgetting that there are 4 ideas where you're actually meeting. So to influence the person, first, instead of you focusing on that one idea where you're disagreeing, first communicate to them in terms of how you are actually in sync on these other ideas. Actually, it's good that we are agreeing on this, on number 1, on number 2, on number 3, and number 4. Now, let's talk about what is possible for all of us. You share the vision. Say, what is possible for all of us is that ultimately, we all want to build a school. That's the vision. And once this school is up and running, you paint the future. Once this school is up and running, it's going to impact thousands of kids in this village. The family's well-being, the well-being of this community will be uplifted. And like we agreed earlier, we all want the well-being of this community to get better. Now, most importantly, if we agree on this other thing, the number 5 I'm selling, this is what I see. What I see is that ultimately, the what's in it, WIIFM is what's in it for me. So you ask selling what's in it for that other person. What I see is, and of course, by then you should be knowing what is most important to them. let's assume leaving a positive legacy is one of the things that they really admire. And what I see for us is, if we move forward, your legacy is going to be intact. The whole community is going to be singing your name. And because of what we would have agreed upon here. See? So that's one of the core tricks and strategies, big idea strategies, is you find common ground first, and that's what you push to gain momentum. Then once you've gotten all this momentum, then you can gently feed in the fifth point, and most importantly, show them how what you're selling is useful from a vision perspective, the future, and also what's in it for the person that you're selling to, or what's in it for the team that you're selling to, your staff members or your the management. So what's in it for them? And when we say what's in it for me, also if you can touch at the individual, the better. And again, for some of us who will get public speaking masterclass, I go in depth around persuasion, the art of persuasion, and get people to think the way you want them to think. And that's the core strategy. Then the people strategy. Share your feelings, express your fears and hopes, show your concerns, seek out people's emotions. What do I mean by that? Here, you want to connect with people at a heart level, not mind level, just. One of the biggest challenges I see that blocks people is that they want to only focus on the logic. And yet it's emotions that pull people to act, even bigger than the logic. And one of the ways you can be influential is to share what your feelings are. You know, what is exciting me about this is this, and what is concerning me. Let's stay with the school as an example. This is a hypothetical example. You know, I'm really excited about this school idea because looking back, I remember when we couldn't afford school fees, and part of the challenge was even the transport itself. So I'm thinking that if we have this school right here in the community and kids can walk there, that will be exciting. And I'm so hopeful about that. My concern though is we are dragging our feet on this. My fear is that if we keep dragging our feet, then the building where it had reached at the wall plate and it's almost a rainy season, it means the bricks might get worn out, and all the great work we had done may go to nothing. And yet we have a special opportunity here to really move forward if we can start ramping up and making sure that each one of us contributes at least $100 a month. So I'm just wondering, so for me, those are my personal feelings. I'm just curious, what are your own personal feelings? What are your feelings about this? I'm not talking about thought, I'm talking about feelings. So then let people bring that up, they put it into the pot, and then you stir it up, and then you see how you can create a new recipe that you feel can be served to these people to move them to a higher level. So in other words, you show that you're listening, not show, genuinely listen, and then you've put your heart out there because authenticity sells. If you tell people about what you're genuinely feeling in the moment, and you'll be surprised that some of the people will actually be feeling what you're feeling, then that creates an even deeper connection because your story is their story. Your emotions is their emotion. And then now all of a sudden you're deeply connected. And with that connection, now they can listen more. And then you also give them an opportunity to bring in their emotions or to share their personal feelings and emotions. And now as a leader, then you see how to channel that and say, you know what, having listened to you, what I'm picking up is we all really want to move forward with this cool idea. And our concern has been that you do not have access to the $100 a month. So let me then propose that we do $80 a month. Boom, so you shift. But part of influence is people need to know and feel that they have a voice, that they are listened to, that their thoughts are listened to, and that you do not just There are moments where you may have to just sell your idea head on, but most times if you're leading a team, listen to people, their thoughts and their emotions. Though this particular one, there are those moments where you feel, there are moments when you're selling the logic and they're not hearing. Now that's when you need to tap into the emotions, the heart idea, use stories, share your genuine feelings, and then you'll be immensely surprised at what's possible. But then remember always, whatever you're doing, there should be a purpose. Which direction are you taking people? And that has to be, so when you look at all these strategies, the core idea or concept is you have to mix all these strategies. It's not like just using one, it's using all these strategies in combination or in unison that you become unstoppable. That is the action, is the process, there's the ideas, and the people strategy. Because now the idea, for example, whereas there's a big portion of logic, here is a big portion of emotion, here is a big portion of actual strategy and of course facts. But then of course here at the top, in terms of the action, you need to manage the people. There's clarity over the direction and you need to manage the people. All right. So Sheila has asked a very useful question, that can one use all the 4 strategies? Absolutely. And that's why towards the end, I said the trick, the magic is in using all the 4. So think about them as 4 pillars of stands of the table, or 4 pillars in the house that hold the room together. So if you can mix all these, you have the clarity, and you're able to manage people to take the action, you're able to think through the process through numbers, and you win over influential people. You make sure that the ideas, you mesh them together, you show people what's in it for them, you tap into people's emotions, and you share your side of the story. Then when you mix all these, then your chances for success are super, super high. Okay. Let's roll, ladies and gentlemen. Skill sets. Let's first look at the 3-step model. So with this 3-step model, the way it works is, number 1, you look at the logical appeal, meaning you use reason, you use facts, you share personal and organizational benefits. That's the logical appeal here. Then the emotional appeal, which is here, the heart. You attach personal goals to the big goals, you touch people's missions. What does this really mean for them? So meaning, if you've been a part of team influence, by the way, is get into people's psyche. Get to know what are their dreams, what are their core missions in life. So for example, for me, if you're going to sell me something, if you're talking about transforming humanity, then you have me. If you have something that you feel is going to transform my daughters to become better human beings or become super successful, then you have me, because all those have meaning. So for me, it's really 2 things: transforming humanity and family. Those 2. I'm now giving away my tricks, my emotional touch points. So I may become vulnerable to some of you and you sell to me easily. So the key thing though is, I'm saying, find what touches people deeply and then see how you can connect what you're selling to them. So for example, let's just assume you want to influence this team to become more productive. And you also know, assuming you want to motivate Ethan, you know that Ethan values his family a lot. Spending time with her daughters is big time, is a biggie. So what you do is say, no, it's very important for us to be productive, because if you're super productive and you achieve your goals and you come in early and you finish your work early, then you can leave your work early and spend more time with your family, because ultimately family is very, very important. So all of a sudden, I'm not just listening at the logic, which is the logical appeal of producing for the company, but you've touched my heart to say, look, when you produce, you are able to leave early and spend time with your children. If you're selling to these amazing ladies on the call right now, say both of them whose daughters are Abigail, say you spend more time with Abigail. Trust me, they will listen. That's the emotional trigger. And then the collective approach is, how is everyone concerned going to play a role? Show how together you're going to benefit. So now here you're talking about the individual missions, but now here you're talking about the collective mission. Say something along the lines, as a team or as a group, then we would have performed. And guess what? Ultimately, there is the Team of the Year award, and that's something I would want us to do, to achieve. So you're showing the collective approach or the collective benefit. Then I want us to talk about the 6 steps of influence that would be very useful for you as we focus deeper on this skill set segment. Number 1 is you need to sharpen the vision. You need to know the direction. You need clarity, because the sharper your vision is, or the clearer it is, the easier it will be for you to sell. If your vision is hazy, then your mind will be hazy, your ideas will be hazy, what you're selling will be hazy, and people won't understand you. So you need to clarify that first. Number 2 is you identify the people who will fit in that vision. Not everyone is fit for purpose or fit for vision. So there are people who will be super fit for the vision you're selling, and there are people who are not. And there are moments, of course, there are moments whereby your team is so small that you have to get everyone together. And there are also times when you just have to sell this concept to certain people, and that's it. Like even this vision of me doing these segments, well, not everyone that I talked to came on board, and that's okay. But you know what? Those who, most of the people I saw too, came on board, and they have been very supportive from the word go. So identify people who will fit in that vision, and then lay down your strategy. Which strategy do you think would best suit them? Is it the process approach, the action strategy, the people strategy? But like you heard me say earlier, you need to combine all this. The emotions, the action, the process, so you need all that together. And having said that, even amidst all these strategies, there's always a dominant strategy which you feel is going to work best. And that's where you spend most of the time when you're explaining. So not all strategies are created equal depending on the context. There are moments whereby people are already emotionally sold, so you just need to sell the logic. And there are people where that logically they are sold, you need to spend more time on the emotions. Then step 4, you need to communicate and act in regards to who you are selling to. When I say selling to, it means you really have to know what they want, the people you are selling to, so that you show them that what you're selling really fits into what they want. Okay. And when you say communicate and act in regards to what you're selling, you cannot tell people, you cannot sell the vision of coming in on time, and you come late and you think that people will buy that. Remember that actions always speak much louder than words. So meaning your words have to match the action. You have to be congruent. That's how you become persuasive. That's how you become more, that's how you increase your chances for success when you're communicating. Then 5, recruit a team that believes in you. Start with those on the fence. Now, here you're identifying, so to speak, all right? And you're thinking about the strategy, you communicate, but then recruiting is getting the commitment. And when you say start with those on the fence, means those who are more apt or more sellable, or they are more open to your idea. The mistake that I used to do, or the mistake that I used to do when I was younger, is whenever I had an idea like this, I would spend so much time attempting to convince those people who are not agreeing with me. And in the process, sometimes I would even lose out on those people who are already showing interest. So the trick instead is first get these people who are more interested, get them on board. Then once they are in full flow, then you can start reaching out to these others. And here's what's interesting. The other people who also weren't, who hadn't even bought into the vision, they might see these other people who are moving forward. They are like, oh, yeah, let's go. This is exciting. I hadn't noticed. And before you know it, those who were on the side or who had not bought into the idea or the vision, boom, they start going along or moving along. So when I say recruit a team that believes in you, I mean quickly get those people who are buying into your idea or your vision to get going. And then you can later extend your reach to the other people, but start with those who are with you. In Uganda, they say, in Uganda, they say, ogenda n'abagenda, okay? First get those who are in motion already. It is much easier. Someone was telling me that if you're going to pick a border for some of us who live in Uganda, he said, the ones who are already, if you find the guy is already parked at the stage, those ones are more expensive to engage. If someone is already in motion going your direction, they are always much cheaper. So you advise, get those who are already moving, okay? So get people who are already in motion, who are in sync with your vision first. Not that you totally ignore the rest, but start with those who are. And then, of course, reward and sanction behavior. And when we say reward, it does not necessarily always mean money and all these sorts of things. Reward might mean, sending a card, a thank you card, and celebrating someone. Sanction behavior, there could be, if you're leading a team and you're a team leader, ideally there should also be both. If people do great, what do they benefit? And if they don't, what do they lose? Do they lose out on certain benefits? My girls know, for example, if they spend a couple of minutes in the evening watching stuff on my phone, but they know if they have not done certain basics, then they lose out. That's sanctioning and rewarding. I don't beat them, but they know there are rewards and sanctions. Now let's look at the mastery. So what I want us to do is identify one way of being, that you would want to sell. One way of being that you would want to sell to a certain category of people. One way of being means a result. And then use those 6 steps to influence them. So the 6 steps, just to remind you of the 6 steps, they are right here. So see how you can apply these 6 steps to influence them. All right, so that's your task, to make sure that this is ingrained inside you. So meaning you think of the idea you want to influence your team to buy, or a direction or a way of being, and then use these 6 steps. So remember to reflect on this. What did you find most useful in this presentation? And how are you going to implement the lessons moving forward in your life and career stroke business? All right. So let me look through some of the questions. One of us was asked a question around Daphne is asking, been reading Good to Great, which is an excellent book, by the way. I would highly recommend it. I read it many years ago. I need to reread it. And the author is Jim Collins, says you first get the team before the vision. How does this play out? Okay, so please, just again, the context. And I know Emily had given you part of the answer in it, which is you get to the right people on the bus first. So what the context of that was, if you have the right people on your team first, then the rest is much, much easier. That's the context for his messaging. In that, because some people, you'll be surprised in that there are people, they will, let me go to the extreme here. There's an organization that opened up, it was a salon many years ago when I just started this work. And this person invested a lot of money in the equipment, the nice desks, nice tables, nice chairs, first-class equipment, but failed or refused to invest in the human resource, the training. He said, okay, we need to train your team for customer service and all these other skills that will help your business to succeed. And she couldn't, she refused. But guess what? The business closed. So she forgot about the people on the bus. She focused on beautifying the bus, but forgot the people in the bus. And so here the key thing is to get the right people first. Now, this particular segment, what we are talking about is that once you have those people, how do you then influence this team? So what Jim Collins was talking about, to get the right people. In this case, right people means in terms of skill sets, attitude, character, and they're the right, so they have the right attitude, they have the right skill sets, and they have the right character. That's what I would define as the right people on the bus. Then once you have those, you can always rejig them. You can always move the pieces around, not the pieces, you can move people around and they still perform. But for this particular session, we are saying, okay, now that they're on the bus, now that they're in the organization, how do you move and influence them? Okay. So please definitely let me know if that makes sense now. And yeah, and thanks, Emily, for responding earlier. Definitely.